Howdy folks, how's everybody doing today? Hope you're having a good one. You all staying warm and safe and out of the snow, hopefully. Yeah, that's better. Alrighty, so we got a couple things today. Let's see. Wow, that's weird. Oh yeah, I don't need that one. Maybe that's why. Alright, so we're going to wrap up Chapter 10 here. A little review of object-oriented programming. Yeah, if you can see the code on github.com, I'll be able to see it there super quick. So, same with the other one. So hopefully that flow goes pretty well and we'll get used to it. There's not actually too much for us to do in Chapter 10. A couple miscellaneous topics, but that's good because we've got a couple things to cover today. So we're going to talk about Lab 4. And then we're going to talk about Project 0. We're going to talk about some of the stuff out of Chapter 10, and then we'll talk about Project number 1. So we got a couple things going on here. So let's pull up the lab here first, and we'll get this one knocked out. Sound okay? Let me close this one. Start up a new project. All right. I did have NetBeans open already. I did remember that. This is Lab 4 for 2151. Sorry to say the snow days are not impacting the remote classes, unfortunately. But hopefully you folks don't have to travel anywhere, so that's nice and stay out of it. Though my kids are disappointed we did not get as much snow as was forecasted. I think we hit maybe 4 inches. I don't know, I have to go out and measure and see. But they were really bummed we didn't get 18 inches. And, you know, not having to drive anywhere was a plus. So as long as I wasn't going to lose power, I was okay with it too. All right, so we're going to write our class item that has attributes for name, price, and quantity. We're going to include the constructor. We'll have set and get methods for all the attributes, and we'll add a method for get total price, which is price times quantity. So that's item. So we'll come to our package, and we're going to add a new Java class. We'll call this one item. Oh yeah, the wrong chat window, Mike. I was doing that. All right, so we're going to have private string for name. Oops, name, there we go. Private int for quantity, and probably a double, right, for price, because generally you charge pennies for things. Okay, now we need a constructor that accepts all those values as arguments, get and set methods, and then a get total price. So let's do the constructor first. Now, I don't want to write it myself, so I'm going to right-click and say insert code, insert a constructor, and check these boxes. Great. It writes the code for me. Again, nothing wrong with doing it yourself. No big deal here. You'll notice, right, this dot variables are the ones that are our class level or instance attributes here. The orange ones are the arguments, right? This being the instance of the class. Right, and then we need get and set. So I'm going to insert code. We want getters and setters. We want it for everything. Again, I don't have to write it myself. Let's let the tool do it. So get name, set name. Get quantity, set quantity, get price, set price. Pretty straightforward so far. And then we wanted to get total price. So a public double get total price. This is the one we have to write ourselves here. We're going to return price times quantity. Okay. So that's it for item. All right, name, price, and quantity. We got the constructor, we got gets and sets, and we've got get total price. Now we're going to write a taxable item that extends item. We'll include an attribute for tax rate, add a get and set for it, and we're going to override get total price to include the taxes owed, right, which is the tax rate times the total price. That should have been an equal sign, not a plus. I'm sorry. Hopefully that made sense. If you did a plus there, you oh, okay. That's my mistake. So let's add a new class here for taxable item. And then remember our keyword here, we say extends. So our taxable item extends item. And right off the bat, it's going to yell at us. It says, constructor item in class item cannot be applied to given types. Required, string, int, double, found, no arguments. Remember, by default, you get those no argument default constructors in Java. I just set everything to default. They're generally ugly. Oh, sorry, Shady. So with our no argument constructor, the default one, it can't call the item constructor. If your superclass, if your parent class has a constructor, you have to call it. Right? There is no argument constructor here, so I have to call this one. So we need to write a constructor for taxable item here. But we also need a double for tax rate. Okay, so we're going to add a constructor. Now we want the tax rate, sure. And look at this. It even suggests this for me with that insert code. It says, hey, you should give me a string for name, an int for quantity, and a double for price, and the tax rate. Now, I actually prefer the order to be the other direction, but again, it doesn't actually matter one way or the other. So I want the item stuff first, and then my stuff. Sure, anything doesn't really matter too much there. And then we're going to call super. This calls my super class constructor. This will call the item constructor, given the name, quantity, and price that were given to my constructor. And then we can add gets and sets for tax rate. Right? Again, it'd be nice to do some sort of sanity checking, but that's not the point of this exercise. You know, tax rates. When people say 6%, some of them might give you 6. Some of them might give you 0.06. Some might give you 6 in the percent sign. It's going to be all over the place. So you're going to want to be a little bit careful about it, but for now it's okay. And then what we want to do is we want to override. Right? So we're going to add this little override annotation to make sure we're doing it right. So public double, get total price. Good, it checks it. So we've got the same return type and the same method name. Things are looking good so far. The whole cost, like the pre-tax cost plus the amount to be paid in taxes. Yeah, I mean, so get total price just is the total value of it here. If you did something else, that's probably fine. So to get the total price, I don't have access to quantity and price. Right? I could use the methods. I could say get quantity and get price because I have access to the public methods. I can't get the values directly. Or I could get my superclass's version of total price. Either one's perfectly fine. I think that's probably faster here. So we're going to say return super.get total price plus, hey Hector, thank you so much for donating those bits to the Student Scholarship Fund over at the University of Michigan Dearborn College of Engineering and Computer Science. So the order doesn't actually matter, Mike. Generally, and again, this is just a general convention. Constructors go at the top. Some people have all sorts of rules and ways that they want things to be ordered. Some people like your variables at the top. Some people like them at the bottom. Some people want constructors at the top, and then public methods, and then private methods down below is generally how I'll go about things. So I like the attributes at the top, and then I like constructors, and then I like public methods, and then I like the private methods. So just looking at the class, you can kind of give it a quick scan and see what's doing what. Yes, just for the readability. Java is good enough that you can put them in any order and it doesn't care. So on the total price plus the get total price times the tax rate. So I'm going to assume if they told me 6%, they gave me 0.06. So 0.06 times the total price plus the total price is the new taxable total price. Right, and that's it. That's it for the lab. So just practicing some of the classes and overrides. That makes sense? So I'll go ahead and I'll commit this one to GitHub. My coffee pot did not finish brewing before class started. I was standing downstairs. I had my mug that was empty, just standing in front of it, listening to it brew, sadly. and then it was like 10:05. I'm like, oh crap, I can't wait any longer. So I came back up. So we'll take a break in a little bit here. We'll probably do the next project, and then I'll go get some more coffee before we start the new stuff. Come on, GitHub. Why is it so cranky? There we go. 2151. This is lab 4. Commit. Push. All right, awesome. Okay, so now let's talk about project 1. Oh, does this say someone's wrong here? Hang on. Is it not going to compile? I guess I should make sure it actually builds. It looks like there's a red. It's upset with something here. Let me try and build real quick. We'll see if there's any errors. No, okay. I think it's just confused. It's just NetBeans being dumb. All right, so dot application, we'll call this one project 1. All right, I can get rid of all this junk here. So for project 1, a little movie theater manager, right? Oh, so I'm sorry. Project 0. My goodness. I forgot. I named these funny. So let me rename this. Rename Project 0. Oh, I wanted to rename the folder. Shoot. Rename. One more time. There we go. Now it'll rename the folder. Thank NetBeans. Close lab 4. Rename this one. Refactor rename 0. You don't want to be confused, right? And this one, refactor rename project 0. There we go. All right, now it's all lining up here. Okay. So we're going to manage a theater seating reservation system. We're going to use a binary file for each room. Here we've got Harry Potter, Encanto, and Matrix theaters. Theaters for Harry Potter has 10 seats, theater for Encanto has 20 seats, theater for Matrix has 15 seats. So our program will have 2 options, guest reservations and manager report. Allow a guest to attempt to reserve a seat in a given theater. Ask them which theater and which seat number, and see if the seat is available. If it's available, write their name in this file for that seat, generate a random confirmation code, a random number 10,000 to 100,000, write the confirmation code in the file as well. Be sure to tell the guest the code as well. If the seat is already taken, let them know they can't have that seat and allow them to pick another. Add an option for manager to print a theater reservation list. Ask which theater. Be sure to show which seat numbers are taken, the guest name, and confirmation code for each guest. Be sure to show empty seats as empty with no code. Okay, a couple weird things happening there. So we need 2 different options then, right? We're going to reserve seats or we're going to print reports. Now, if we wanted, we could go the route of wrapping all of this up in a class, which I think kind of makes life a little easier for us here. So we're going to make a theater class here. Not required, but I think putting things that belong together here, right, makes sense. And then we can have it be a nice little combined package here for theater. So probably have a string for the name of the theater. We probably have an int for the number of seats. And what else do we need here? So, oops, I don't want that. So name and number of seats, so we can make the different theaters by name and tell them how many seats they have. And then they're going to need to track that list of who's sitting where and their confirmation codes, right? So we could do that. So I'm going to go nuts here, because why not? We'll have a little bit of fun here. So here's a reservation here. So then a reservation class then is going to represent a single reservation, right? So it'll have a private string for the guest name and a private int for the confirmation code, right? That sound like that makes sense? And then I'm going to add gets and sets. And then what I want to do here, I want to add a new constructor. We'll say, okay, if you tell me the guest name, I'll make a reservation, but I want to make up that confirmation code, right? So let's say math.random times 100,000, or no, 9. We wanted up to 100,000, but not including 100,000. So if we multiply by 100,000, right, we're going to get numbers 0 to 99,999. Well, that's not exactly what we want either, because we want a number between 10,000 and 100,000, because we wanted five-digit numbers here. So I need 10,000 less than that here. So I need 10,000 less. So let's go to 90,000. So we'll get numbers 0 through almost 90,000. And then we want to add 10,000 to it. And we want all of that as an int. Right, so an integer value between 0 and 90,000, not including 90,000, plus 10,000 should give me numbers between 10,000 and 9,999. So we'll add that in the constructor. Again, this doesn't necessarily need to happen this way, but I think it's going to work out nice and easy for us. And then we got sets and gets. So we can also make a constructor if we want that accepts both of those. Right, because when we're reading these out of the file, I will know what both of them are. Right? So then instead of doing this twice here, we can use this fancy, we can say this. Remember, and this we'll call our own constructor here. And then give it that value if you want. That's an option here. So math random does not include the value 1. So it's between 0 and 1, not including 1. So it'll never be 1 with math random. So you'll never get this, whatever you're multiplying by. Okay. Then in my theater, I want to make a set of these reservations. Right? And I guess we could even have a reservation that's empty, right? Let's make one more constructor. Insert a constructor that's just empty here. Spells this with a no name here and maybe a 0 for confirmation code. Right? 0 and empty. We could do that. So we're going to track all of the seats here, right? And we're going to know if the seat's available or not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Let me double check. So math.random. So if you hover over the suggestion here, it tells you, yeah, it's greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1 is the definition here. Okay, so now I can have reservations. So my theater then can have a list of reservations, right? So I can make a private reservation array if I wanted for reservations. We could do that. This is the basic array, or you could use an array list. The problem with an array list is you're not going to get a bunch of defaults. So that is one benefit of using the array, right? Is that it will call this default constructor for reservation, and I'll assume they're all open. I don't know. Yeah, I think either way would work. It's not too big of a deal one way or the other. We use arrays or array lists. And then we'll make the theater. So let's make a constructor here. So we'll insert code for constructor. You tell me the name of the theater, like this is Matrix or Encanto or whatever. And you tell me the number of seats here. And I'll make that reservations array. So I'll say my reservations equals a new reservation array of size number of seats. Okay, so we'll go make it. Now the trick is we want to go see if there's a file, we want to go read that file. Right? So now we've got to do a little bit of work here. So now we want to say, okay, we'll make a file. What is this? I don't know, saved data, saved reservations equals a new file. And I'll probably just call our name plus .bin or something. I don't know. Why not? And now, yep, we got to add some imports. And then we can say, if my saved reservations file exists, I can go read it. Right? If it doesn't exist, then don't worry about it. It's just empty. I'm good to go. But if it does exist, let's go read it. So I'm going to go cheat here. Hey, thanks for following along. And I don't want to have to type all that code again. So let's go find where we did this file IO stuff before, so I can copy paste a little bit. So file IO. So we're going to do a binary file here. So our data input stream here. All right, and add some imports. We have data input stream, buffered input stream, file input stream for our saved reservations. So if it exists, let's go get the input here. And now, okay, this one might cause an exception. So let's put this in a try block. Right, I think the suggestion will do it for us here. So we say, yep, surround with a try catch. Awesome. And again, we don't need that catch option here. Actually, I'm just going to let it crash. No, that's fine. We'll just print out a message. Generally, it's bad to like do any sort of printing of messages in the class, but we don't really have a better option right now, so don't worry too much about it. Okay. Right, so then if we're going to do that, now I need to go read that many reservations here. Right, so I'm going to say for int seat number is, I don't know, do we call it seat number 1, I guess, or seat number 0? I guess it doesn't really matter. Seat number is less than the number of seats. Seat number plus plus. Neat number, seat number. Right, so then we can loop through here, and we're going to go read those things out of the file. So I'm going to take my binary input, and I'm going to call read UTF here to get the guest's name. Right, so I have a string for guest name is binary input read UTF, and then an int for confirmation code is going to be my binary input dot read int. We'll read the integer out. So read the guest name, and we'll read the confirmation code. Oh, that's right. So file IO exception. So that needs to be the more generic type here. Oh, just IO exception, sorry. A IO exception here is the base type that all these should be. So that way, any of those errors will all get caught here, and we'll just print out the message. So once we've got those, then I'll make a reservation. Or we can then take our reservations. That's right, so reservations. Index of the seat number is equal a new reservation, given the guest name and the confirmation code. So we'll read all those out, and we'll put them into our array. So it's getting a little long there. That's just with all those tabs, I think. Does that make sense? So we're just going to go read, and we're going to read them all in pairs. The name and the confirmation code. Name and confirmation code. So I've got a spot for every seat, and if it's empty, then it's just empty. No problem. Okay, that will make the new theater class, and it'll load it all up. Right, so then I need probably, I think I probably need gets. I don't want sets here, because if you try and change the number of seats later on, it's going to mess a whole lot of things up, right? Because all my files are based on the number of seats here. So we just want to do get name and get number of seats, so we can get those back out, name and number of seats, and then we need a way to try and reserve a seat, or like is seat open, I guess. We can do that. So public boolean is seat available, given an int for seat number. And we're going to return my reservations, index of the seat number. And then we can say, what do we want to check? We can get the guest name or we can get the confirmation code. I'm going to say the confirmation code equals 0. So if the confirmation code is currently listed as 0, we'll say the seat's available. Right? And then how about a, we could do a Boolean here too, right? Reserve seat, int seat number, string guest name. Oh, we need to return the confirmation code, so this will be an int. Right, so when they go to reserve a seat, we can, I guess maybe it makes sense here if the seat is available. If is seat available, given the seat number, we'll go do it. And if it's not, we'll return a 0. I don't know. Maybe that's not all that useful, but sure. So we'll take our reservations, index of the seat number equals a new reservation, given the guest name. And then we can return the reservations, seat number, index, no, reservations, index of seat number, dot get confirmation code. Right, we'll get the one we just generated here. Right, so we'll put their name in, add a new reservation, get the confirmation code that was generated. Otherwise, I give them back a 0 if it wasn't available. Okay, and then we probably need a way to save the file, right? Now, we could do it every time we reserve a seat, and that probably makes the most sense. So let's do that. So let's add in here then a method here for save file. And that could be public, why not? Void save file. It might just be private, I don't know. I don't know if you need to do it separately. It's like automatically it'll save every time you reserve a seat. So what we want to do, oh, I forgot to close our file here. Uh-oh, bad me. So our binary input dot close, right? Close. Open the file, read and write it, close it. And I forgot to close it. So now we need to open the file for writing. So our binary output file. Let's copy that one in here. And this is going to be the name of the file plus bin, right? So name plus bin. Oh my goodness, that was not the right name plus bin. Dot bin, add our imports here. Add our imports. And then it might cause an exception, sure. So let's do this in a try catch. And we'll just say bad stuff happened here. We'll just print out the exception, that's fine. This is IO exception. Because all sorts of bad stuff could happen here. Okay, and then we want to say for, now this one I already have the reservations, right? I don't need to go by index or anything and set all these values here. So I'm going to say for, we'll just say reservation in the reservations collection, right? In that reservations array, we take our binary output file, and we're going to write a UTF of the reservation dot get guest name, and then we're going to write again, write an int this time of the reservation. Reservation, no, not reserve seat, reservation. I don't know why it's not typing. Reservation. There we go. Dot get confirmation code. So we're going to have zeros and empties if the seat's not taken, but that's it. And then we'll close our file. Okay. That sound okay? So it'll save our file. So now I should be able to make theaters. I can clean up all these here. Let's clean up our removed unused imports. Okay, I thought I would do them all at once. That's fine. So we can make a new theater then, right, just by name, and they all behave the same. So that's the goal of having the class here, is that if the theaters all behave the same, the only thing that's different is their name and number of seats. That's what I want to do. Right? So that's for theater. Let's see. So we don't have a way to do a report yet, right? So maybe we want a way to either return the report or print a report. How about just print report? Because we know this is a console-based application, so it's probably fine. So again, we'll just do this similar thing here, where we're going to loop through every reservation, but we're not going to write them here. We're just going to output them. So we want seat number. Oh, I guess we need to use indexes here because we need seat numbers. So seat number is 0. Seat number is less than number of seats. Seat number plus plus. So we'll say, okay. Oh, we got too many things in here, sorry. So the seat number plus the seat number. And then, oh, you want to do this all in one line? It's probably all in one line. So I'll just do them as prints here for a second, just to make life a little easier. And then we'll do another print for guest name plus the guest name, or reservation.guest name. And one more print then for confirmation code of the confirmation code. Okay. Oops, so reservations, index of seat number. There we go. So that was a bad copy paste. Now it's getting a little long there, isn't it? That's a bummer. That makes sense? So we'll just print those out for printing our report. Okay, so if we make a bunch of theaters here then, so we'll have a couple theaters at the start. So we'll have a theater for, what is it? We have 3 different movies, right? We had Harry Potter with 10 seats. Harry Potter was, equals a new theater. Theater called Harry Potter with 10 seats. We had a theater for Encanto. Encanto was a new theater. Encanto. Now we had, what, 15 seats or something. And then we had a theater for Matrix. It was a new theater for Matrix. And what did that one have? 20 seats, I think. You folks with me so far still? We doing okay? Oh, Encanto had 20, Matrix had 15. Okay. Encanto had 20. Matrix had 15. Okay, and then we're going to ask them, do they want to reserve seats or print reports? So if we're going to use their input, right, we'll use our scanner. There's a new scanner. Given system.in. Right, and then we'll get their input. Oh, gotta add our imports. Thank you. So their string for, I don't know, mode, I guess, is going to be keyboard.nextLine. And, okay, sure. So if the mode equals, mode equals ignoring case, reserve, we can do the reserve thing, else if the mode equals ignoring case was report, I don't know, so we'll say reserves, I don't know, reserve seats, or how about print? All right, how about just a P here for print and just an R for reserve? I like that. So if it's an R, we'll reserve. If it's a P, we'll print. Sure. And I don't know if they'll actually know that's what we mean here, but sure. We'll come up with something. And otherwise, tell them, I'm afraid I don't know what you want. I mean, we could do some sort of loops and make it all prettier and whatnot, but this is probably okay for now, right? So how about print first? So let's do the print, because print should be pretty easy. So we'll ask them what theater. Theater. How about 1 for Harry Potter, 2 for Encanto, and 3 for Matrix. And then the theater is going to equal the keyboard.next line. Next line. Okay, and then if the theater equals ignoring case is a 1. Actually, there's no case to ignore here, right? So that's probably fine. It's just equals. Right? You can't have an uppercase 1. Right? We'll call Harry Potter dot print report. Print report. Right? Else if my theater was 2, that'll be an Encanto report. Else if it's 3, that's the Matrix report. Cool. And else I don't know that one, that theater. Sure. All right, so some basic reports. We should be able to get out a bunch of empties, right? And if we wanted to, we could like let this be a big loop here, which might make life a little easier for us here, or quit, right? And then we can say while mode equal ignoring case Q, while it's not Q, right? We'll let them do all of this stuff again. I'll make life a little easier for us here, right? Because then I can just run this over and over and over. So the only thing I want to do here then is I want to ask them, and then so I need mode actually to be defined up above here as something that's not Q start. And we can, okay, what mode do you want? R, P, or I'm afraid I don't know what you want. And we'll ask them again. I guess if it's not Q, right? We should do else if it's not Q. Okay, so if it is R, or it's P, or it's not Q. Sure, okay, that'll work. That way we're not printing out that thing twice. So we should be able to get a bunch of empty reports now for our theaters. So let's print reports for 1. Uh-oh. Exception. Can't evoke get name because this reservation seat number is null. We never saved our file. So we couldn't read it here because we never went. So if it did exist, we went and read it. If it didn't exist, we need to go save, right? So if it doesn't exist, then our else needs to save file. So we'll save it as an empty file here because it didn't exist, right? We don't have any files in here yet. Yep. There we go. Okay. That ought to fix that. So now let's try it. And we should get some empty files showing up here. Oh. What do you mean? That was a fresh run. I just want to run it. Uh-oh. Bummer. All right. Init 44. Save file. Doesn't exist. All right. I was wrong, I guess, about these. Get name. Reservation is null. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So the array here, it is null. That's a big bummer here. So it reserves the space, but it doesn't even make defaults. Yeah, okay, so if it doesn't exist, then we need to go make a bunch of these things. So we'll say for seat number 0. I got a bunch of these loops already, right? Where's the seat number loop? There we go. So we'll take our reservations, index of seat number equals a new reservation. Boom. Too many. There we go. Then we can save the file. All right. I missed a curly brace. Got rid of too many curly braces. There we go. All right, so now we'll try and save our file here. After we set a bunch of empty seats. My mistake. Let's run our program. Hey, and now we get an Encanto bin, Harry Potter bin, and Matrix bin. Uh-oh. End of file exceptions. We're getting some exceptions here and not crashing. All right, folks. Let's see. End of file. All right, maybe we should. This is obnoxious then if it's not actually going to print those errors. Just as the exception, we want the whole stack trace. Get stack trace. We want all of that. No, just that one. No exception. Where else are we doing this? And our exception gets stack trace. Okay. I want the whole trace both times. So let me stop our run and rerun it here. Oh, friends. Stack trace, toString. I don't know why it keeps giving me all those terrible suggestions. toString. All right, one more time maybe. Let's see where it's breaking. Oh, nope. Okay. That didn't. Exception. I want print stack trace. Is that it? Prints this throwable and its backtrace to the standard error. Sure. I wonder if that's going to do it for us. What's the hint? All this to catch it. Wonder why it's breaking. Aha, here we go. Read. End of file exception when we try and read. Are there not enough? We're not writing enough here when we're reading? Number of seats, seat number. And when we write them, and they shouldn't be empty because we should have saved them from here. Do we write empty files? Is that what happened? Let's see. Let's open this up in. Oh. Where'd it go? I thought I had that open option. I don't, because NetBeans, right? Hang on, let's open it here. We'll go this route. Open. Show and Explorer. Oh, did I change the lab? Oh, I got rid of some comments, I guess. That's weird. Sure, why not? All right, so let's grab our folder here. Let's grab Project 0. I hate that File Explorer is so slow now in. Where's Project 0? Yeah, it sees it there. It's there. Like File Explorer is super slow in Windows 10. There it is. It wasn't scrolling. There it goes. Project 0. Please just double click. Apparently it needs more coffee. The files are, oh, Matrix is not empty, but Encanto and Harry Potter are empty. Okay, so let's delete those files here then. Hopefully stop the program. File already in use. Try again. Try again. And delete Harry Potter. Okay. Now let's try and run it. All right. Okay, so now we didn't get errors. We didn't get anything empty. And now the files are all 1 kilobyte files. Okay. Awesome. Crow, you get some bonus points there. Exclamation point bonus points in the chat, and Nightbot will be happy to give you some bonus points. So look at that. A bunch of empty seats. Print a report for Theater 2, a bunch of empty seats. Print a report for Theater 3, a bunch of empty seats. Looking good so far. Okay, so we got some files. Life is pretty good. And cue to quit. There you go, Crow. You got your bonus points from Nightbot. Unfortunately, they're not really worth anything. But that's okay. All right, so if we want to reserve a seat, right, we need to ask them what theater. Yada, yada, yada. And then we need to ask them what seat. Right? What seat number? And what's your name, I guess? Okay, so maybe we'll ask them what theater, what's your name, and the seat number all at the same time. Right? Because they're going to be the same for all of these, right? What seat number? Then int for seat number is integer parse int, given the keyboard.next line. Now, do we need to tell them how many seats are? We probably need to tell them how many. Okay, that's annoying. So I guess this will have to be specific to each one of these then. But we can ask what their name is. What's your name? Get a string for name is the keyboard.next line. So if theater's 1, then we'll tell them there are, and this is Harry Potter, get number of seats. There's that many seats. What seat number? Okay, we can do this. We'll get their seat number. So number 2 then is Encanto. And number 3 is Matrix. Okay. Yeah, and you definitely don't need the classes, but I think it makes life a little easier for you. Because, right, we're kind of grouping up the things that are the same around here. All right, and after we get the seat number, then we'll see if we can reserve that seat. So then it's Harry Potter dot is seat available, I guess, given the seat number. And if the seat is available, then, right, we'll reserve it. Harry Potter, reserve seat, given the seat number and their name, and then we just need to tell them their confirmation code. So int code is that. You can say we reserved your seat. Your seat. Your, I don't know, your code is plus the confirmation code. Okay, now hopefully you're seeing all this repeated code here and you're thinking, Eric, you're doing it wrong, which is true. So we are. So let's do this. Let's take all of this here. Actually, let's finish it, I guess, right? Else, oops. Else, and say that seat isn't available. Available. Okay. All right, so we're going to take all of this here then, right? And I'm going to say I want to refactor extract method or introduce method. I'm going to do this all as a method here. So this is for reserve seat. Given the theater, classes are gross. You prefer spaghetti code. Nice. So where to go now? theater. Oh, didn't we have a theater here? Oh, okay. Too many closing curly braces there. One more there, I think. All right, so to reserve a seat, you tell me about theater here, so this will be theater. Try and reserve the seat, right? We can use that fun little method here to do all this for us. Right, we just say reserve a seat for which theater. So this one is then Encanto, and this one here then is Matrix. Right, because anytime you have the same code twice, you should feel bad about yourself. That's our rule of thumb here, right? Repeat code means you should feel bad about yourself. Okay, so I think we can reserve seats now. Should we try it? Let's give it a shot. Give it a shot. All right, so let's reserve a seat. What do we want to see, folks? What should we see? Harry Potter, Encanto, or Matrix? Harry Potter. All right, one for Harry Potter. What's your name? Eric. There's 10 seats. What seat number? Let's take seat number 0 here. Reserved your seat. Code is 66,328. Let's print a report for Harry Potter. And we see Eric has confirmation code. Look at that. We got it. So let's quit here, and let's see now if I reload it. Can I just print the report for Harry Potter? And I'm still there. Awesome. Looking good so far. How about we go reserve another seat? Mike, you want to see Harry Potter too? Okay, what seat do you want, Mike? There's 10 seats. Up to you. It's a small theater, right? Seat number 7. You got it. Okay, so let's print our report for Harry Potter. We got Eric at seat 0, Mike at seat 7. Looking good so far, I think. All right, so let's give this a commit. I'm going to ignore that one for a second. So here's project 0. And I don't even care. I'm just going to discard those changes. I don't care. We can leave the comments there. Doesn't actually matter. Okay, and we'll push. So again, didn't have to be a class for sure. Nothing means that you had to use a class here. I think it made life a little easier for us if we did, because then everything that was, the same here happens inside the class. Reservations just made life a little easier for us, I think. Didn't necessarily have to be like that. Theater could have had an array of guest names and an array of confirmation codes, but generally if you have two things that go together, right, you want to keep them together. So having a class then that tracks the name and the confirmation code just makes sense, because then they belong together, and then we could do this cool, hey, we generate confirmation codes for us if we want. That sort of thing. Okay? What do you folks think? Not too bad? Not the worst? Okay, cool. All right, so I got 11 o'clock here, so why don't we take a little break? Let me put on some music for you folks. I'm going to go get my coffee. Got to refill this mug here. Now, I love this one. This one is huge, too, by the way. Like, this is the size of my fist. And here's, like, it'll fit inside the mug. Look at that. That's amazing. Like, it fits so much coffee. It's my favorite. I love it. All right. And put the music on. Howdy folks, how's everybody doing again? Hope you had a good chance to go get some coffee. Oh, I forgot, I was supposed to make that like fade quietly, not do that, but that'll be okay, right? Alright, let's close this down and start up a new project here. This is more just like miscellaneous stuff. Not actually a whole lot of like interesting, fun content in this chapter, believe it or not, here, which is crazy, right? Who would have thought it wouldn't be fun and interesting all the time? But give me 1 second. Let me grab all this. No, I'm not 7 feet tall, Mike. 6'2". All right, let's grab our chapter. 10? I really should remember. Yeah, it's 10, right? 10. It's chapter 10. There we go. Yep. All right. So a couple fun things about Java. So far, we've been using just a single package here. You can use multiple packages if you want. Depends on how you want to be organizing all of your code. And different organizations will have different standards around these sorts of things too. So depending on how you're breaking things up, right? A lot of times what we like to do is we break things up into, here's the core business logic, and this is going to get used everywhere. That's one package. And then that way you can use that package other places that need it where they don't necessarily need things like, here's the interface. So if you have some sort of graphical user interface, that can be its own package because the rest of your application doesn't care about it. Now, for our purposes, everything's been really small, and it doesn't matter that we've got a couple different files in here. But if you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of classes, every time you hit build, you don't want to have to compile hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of classes, right? That's gonna be slow. So you can break these up, and you can build individual packages at a time as you go, and kind of build them, put them into logical units of what goes where. And then something like your core logic can be separated out, and you can actually completely pull it out of the working project and put it into its own jar. So if you just go build a project, although this one has main, so let's build another package here. Let's see, it's like tools, and inside of this package we'll make the class here for I don't know, what do you want to do? Coffee. So we'll have a little coffee class here, and this is our coffee tool. So we'll have an int for caffeine, and probably a string for like the roast here. Is it a light roast? Is it a dark roast? That sort of thing. And sure, we'll call that good. All right, coffee is a tool, right? We use coffee to help ourselves be more effective, more alert. It's like one of the very few socially acceptable stimulants. Like caffeine is legitimately a drug, but it's socially acceptable for us to all have a caffeine habit. So, yeah, well, on video I'm sitting, so like you have no idea how tall I am, right? I don't know. It is hard to tell, I guess, because I never really like stand up on camera. But all right, so we got our coffee class. So I can build my coffee class here. It's going to build my miscellaneous jar and the tools jar. So a jar is just a bunch of pre-compiled Java classes. Let's go find our miscellaneous stuff here. So in this distributions folder, NetBeans is really good at breaking this stuff up into where it wants to put its packages. So the miscellaneous jar we can put different places, and it's already done, compiled, ready to go. We can just add it to our project. So this library section here, you can add a jar to your project. And it's not code that you need to compile and run every time. It's just, hey, here's code, like essentially like when we use the Java libraries. When we say, hey, I want to import java.util.something, it's getting it out of the Java libraries. We can build essentially our own library here, our own jar of precompiled classes that can be shared around. So it's pretty fun. I'm not going to worry too much about modules. You don't need to worry about that. The JavaDoc stuff, depending on who you had for 1500, they beat this into you. If you had me, I said, don't worry about it. You can go read about it later. And I'm going to take that same approach. There's nothing wrong with JavaDoc. Very cool, great way of doing some nice documentation for your classes. But I'm going to take the line of, well, it's not code. We don't have time to talk about it because our class is focused on teaching how to code. If your organization wants you to do documentation, go for it. You can do the JavaDoc comments. It's not hard at all. And I think actually when you do the generate code, I wanted to say one of the options was it does comments for you, but I forget where that was. That's okay. So it's just a special way of doing comments. And then there's a tool, the JavaDoc tool will go and generate a nice little web page for you, given that documentation, which is kind of fun. But again, we don't care too much at this point about it here. Right, and then I want to look at enums as well. So enums are awesome. So we're going to grab some of those. Yeah, Oracle owns Java now. There was a split, and a couple people maintain an open JDK, an open version that's not through Oracle, because Oracle went and licensed it and said you should pay them for their use. And really, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it just kind of rubbed everyone the wrong way. So Microsoft even now supports a version of the JDK, which is pretty cool. You can do Java in VS Code and sorts of things. 7.4 billion. I don't know. I guess they're trying to make that money back up. Honestly, I don't know how Java makes their money. That's a good question. Not really sure. All right, but let's do, so I've got coffee here, and I've got this roast, but this is a little bit funny here, and it's not really going to work well for what I want. So let me go add a new class here, and we're going to look at this thing called an enum. So this is just going to be my roast. So instead of a class, we're going to say this is an enum. So this is public enum roast, and enum is short for enumeration. All that means is I get to now have a bunch of specific named values. So I now have light roast, and they're essentially, we name them like they're static. So I'll say light roast, and I'll say medium roast, and I'll say, no, donut, and dark roast. And maybe you have a French roast here, maybe you have an espresso roast, I don't know. You can come up with a couple kinds here, right? Why not? So we got a couple roasts. So then in coffee now, instead of having a string for roast, I can have a roast enum here. Let me get rid of this code that is bad now. And now let me insert my code again. Insert our constructor. So it takes a type of roast here. And it'll insert our setter and getter. Inserts our setters and getters here for roast. So roast is an enum. So what's fun about roast is I can say capital R roast dot, and I get access to all of these enumerations here. The dark roast, the espresso roast, the French roast, the light roast, the medium roast. So if there is a particular set of values that here's a fixed set, and these are all the possible ones, and I can enumerate all of them, you can build an enum here because it's always better to have a nice name in your code. Essentially, yeah, it just groups together a list of options, a bunch of enumerations. That way we have a nice name, because a name that is coded into Java is going to make sure there's no typos. Before, when I had a string for roast, right, if I had that private string bad roast, right, no one was going to have to check to see if bad roast equals, and if I typoed, if I did lghit roast here, anywhere else in my code, if I was going to say, hey, is it light roast, and then does it have to do something, I would have a typo, and that's a bad thing. Right? You're at risk of typos. So if you can enumerate your possible options, you're in better shape. A string and an int? No, at that point you'd want a class. So the enum is just for one particular value, just enumerating out your different options. And the other great thing here, what Java does for you behind the scenes is an enum is actually stored as numeric values, as integer values. So you can say, hey, I want the roast dot, my roast dot, and I can get this thing called an ordinal. The ordinal value is the numeric value behind the scenes of what it is. And generally, it's 0 at the top. So the first one you list here is this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4, or so. And just kind of, they just give them values here, which is really fun behind the scenes, because that is more efficient to pass around numeric values than it is to pass around strings. Because strings are really slow, right? You have to store all the characters, you have to look at all the different characters. Or I could say, hey, if my roast equals roast.light roast, then my caffeine can be something about, caffeine plus equals 10. I forget. So somebody told me, which was really cool, and I didn't know before. I drink a lot of coffee, but don't know a whole lot about coffee. The more it's roasted, the more caffeine comes out, apparently. So I used to drink dark roasts a lot because I really liked that strong coffee flavor. And they told me, well, you're getting less caffeine. And I said, oh no. Well, that's bad because that's why I'm drinking the coffee, because I want the caffeine. So I've been switching over to lighter roasts here. Not as much of the strong coffee flavor, doesn't kick you in the face, but you get a little more caffeine boost out of it. So you can do these sorts of things comparing your enums. It's really fun. You folks okay so far? Yeah, so they're handy. You might see them a lot of places. So definitely a pretty cool tool for sure for keeping life easy. All right, make sure this all builds here. I had to go find our next project real quick. Sorry, just 1 minute. I remember what all we did here. Don't want that one. And let's grab a new tab here. Uh-oh, there we go. There we go. No, not that one. Wrong website. I need more letters. There we go. This was the one we wanted. So grab our class. I highlighted stuff funny. That was weird. All right. So things we're covering here and tackling. Come on, friends. Let's load. So overall, Java architecture, modules are compiled, executed. Talked a little bit about that. You can read more in the textbook. Inheritance, composition, polymorphism, access specifiers. We haven't done a lot with the polymorphism yet. We'll get into that a little further. And abstract classes we got to talk more about. And we did a little bit with interfaces, so we'll get more into that. Static class members. We looked at some of those, right, with some of our review, when classes can have static values and not just the instance attributes. Exception handling, we'll get to basic input and output operations, sequential and random file operations, and binary content. This one we've done binary content. This sequential random file operations is another story. It's where you can actually like read and write in the middle of a file. It's kind of interesting. Generally, we just look at let's store some stuff as binary, because if you're doing any sort of random file operations, you're better off with the database. And we'll look at database programming later. So we don't get too much further into that one. We'll do our Java FX applications and Java annotations like add override we did. Some UML class diagrams and some common design patterns. So we're doing pretty good, folks. Getting through content here. You folks are doing awesome. So we're going to wrap up the object-oriented section here. We'll talk about unit testing next week, and then exceptions the week after that. And then we've got our midterm week and the break. And then we'll switch gears and switch over to our graphical user interface applications. We'll do some Java FX for a while. That'll be project 2. It was a FX project. Project 3, back to the database. Again, another Java FX project. We'll get into Lambda expressions, multi-threading, and we'll pick up the final project, talk a little bit about some extra stuff, have some work time. I'll actually shut up for once. You folks just can work together. Again, I think pairs is a good size for this. If we end up and somebody wanted a group and they couldn't find one, maybe we can do a group of 3. But given we're still in the middle of a pandemic, if you want to do it individually, okay. I'd rather you work in pairs, and with this all of our remote tools, you don't even have to get near each other. Well, we got some options here. Let's see. So we're going to do project 1. It'll be due in 2 weeks. So we'll get it done and out of the way before the midterm. Should be pretty good. Let's see. Looking for something here. Yeah, here we go. All right, so for our project, we're going to look at all this object-oriented stuff here. Spend some more time working on that. I don't think we're going to do a lab for today. There's not a whole lot of labby sort of things we can work on, so we'll just get a head start on this project if that's okay with you. This is due in 2 weeks then. Puts us out to the 17th, right, at 10 a.m. I think this one will probably be about 15 points. I'll take a look. We'll build out the rubric here in a little bit for it, and we can take a peek. All right, and then we need the classroom link. All right. Sorry, going a little longer than I wanted to. Usually I'd like to be done by 11:30, but we're almost there. 51, winter 2022. This is project 1. Want my Java template. Oops, that's /, isn't it? / Java template. Nice of them to be particular. No tests. Feedback pull request. All right, here's our link. Awesome. So submit the URL to your feedback pull request along with the self-assessment using the rubric. So we're going to build out a silly little game here called Animal Craft. So it's a little bit of a mashup here of some games. So we're going to have a player class. The player will have a name, it'll have an island, it'll have a list of friends, which are other instances of players, a list of tools they've picked up. This island class is just a bunch of spaces, some sort of two-dimensional grid full of spaces. The space class has a string for description and a random chance of having a tool that can be found on it. Tools let the players dig, build, chop. Anything you want to come up with here is fine. You can go nuts with it if you want, but just some basic. Hey, you can dig a hole if you find a shovel. You can chop wood if you find an axe. You can build something if you find I don't know, what do we say? You could build with like a saw, I forget. So we're going to add an interface like is buildable, which lets you build on the space. So is diggable lets you dig a hole in the space. Is choppable lets you cut down a tree in the space. So this space class here then, that should be capital S, right, will implement interfaces. So we'll have space is the main class, right, and then we'll have a subclass of that implements these interfaces. So the idea is you can move around your island. Don't worry about the travel to a friend's island at this point here. I think that's fine. Move around their island. Yeah, let's get rid of friends for now. We can forget that. Name an island. So you can pick up tools from the random spaces on your island. If they have the correct tool and the space implements the correct interface, allow them to use the tool on the space. So you can do stuff on your island. That's fine. Yeah, the friends part's not too bad, but we'll worry about that another time. So the idea is we're going to come up with some tools that will work with specific types of interfaces. So remember we looked at, hey, does this class implement an interface? Right? You can, when you land on a space, you can see what particular type it is. So the idea here is that space is the base class or the parent class here, and you can have any sort of specialized version of space here, but we can treat them all as spaces. So this is the idea of polymorphism. So let me just give a quick start here. Oops, I don't want to undo that. Why? Redo that. So let's do, I'm just going to start with project 1. So if the class here is called space, then, right, we're going to have a new class for space. Right, space had a bunch of properties. That's fine for now. We'll come back to that later. But then we had island, right? And then island said, hey, this was a two-dimensional array, so array list of type array list of type space. This is, I don't know, spaces. And yeah, we can import this. So my island then, right, is made up of spaces. I don't need to know the particular type of space right now. All I need to know is that they are a space here, and then they will implement different interfaces. So I can add some interfaces here. Add a new, what do we say, like is diggable or something. Is diggable. So if you're diggable, then we'll have a method for dig. That sort of thing. Right, so then we can have another class here then. So this is a, I don't know, diggable space that is going to implement diggable, is diggable, is diggable. Oh, implements there, I'm missing the S is Y. And then it extends space. So we extend space and we implement an interface here. And now it's upset because we don't have that method. So yeah, we'll add our method for dig, you know, does something here. Sure. To do. So in my island, I don't care if the space is just a generic space, if it's a diggable space, if it's a buildable space, like choppable space, anything interesting I can come up with later, as long as it all looks like a space, right? So space is going to have all of that base components here, and then we can implement different interfaces, and our tools can say, hey, if the space on mine implements this interface, let me go work with it. I'll go do something. That sort of thing. Does that make a little bit of sense? What we're looking for with this? So you can move around your island, you can get the description of the space, and if there's a tool on it, you can pick it up. So we need some random chance of having tools on our spaces. We need a chance, you know, whether or not they implement the interfaces. You can change the descriptions. So essentially, you can walk around and build things. I guess it's not quite animal here because you can't walk around other people's islands, but that's okay. It'll be okay. We'll do more of a simplified version. That make sense? All right, so let's build out a rubric here for this. Make a new rubric. Project 1. All right, we're gonna have, if it's missing, there's no points, and if it's complete, there's points. I think let's do probably like 3 points here. So we'll have a player class, the island class, we'll have the space class, and subclasses, and interfaces. Island class, 2D, array list, spaces. Yeah, those should be worth more. Hey, let's do, that's fine. Let's do space subclasses and space interfaces, or spaces to implement. We'll separate those out. These are the shared attributes and common methods. Subclasses are implement, interfaces, and add new functionality. Implement, come on. No, impellent, that's not implement. Sometimes I don't even get close enough. Then the actual interfaces themselves define the method used to interact with the space. Let's see, and then let's do, so spaces also can have items, able to navigate around and interact with the island. So 18 points, I think. That'll work out. Does that sound okay? I think that'll be fun. And this overall score. So we'll do 18. So how much was Project Zero? Was that 10? I think it was 10, right? Because this is more. We're not forgetting anything. We're kind of building on all of these tools here. Oh, I put it in the wrong category. I put it in the category. And then the text submission, 8 points. Oh dear. Okay, maybe we don't need 18 then if it was 8. It's projects, text submission. Let's bump that down a little bit then. Let's go maybe 12. And I'll go fix that rubric here in a second. I think if each of those are 2 points then, that gets us to 12 instead of 18. Does that sound right? You don't want to go too crazy. Thanks, Tresaurus. So 2 points for each of those then puts us at 12 total points. Okay, I like it. So 50% more points for Project 1 than Project 2. But we got more stuff going on here, right? A lot more stuff going on. Okay. Sound like a good plan? All right, folks, it's been fun. We got a couple more minutes if you want to get started on any of this stuff. We've got one other lab coming up for next week, right? On Tuesday, we'll talk about our interfaces lab on the 8th. And then we'll get into new stuff as well. We'll talk about unit testing our classes, which is fantastic. This is interface for drivable, a class that implements drive, 2 different ones, and a loop that drives the vehicles till they run out of gas. Okay? Feeling okay so far? Let me know what I can do to help. Happy to hop on screen sharing sessions with you folks. I know remote learning is kind of a bust, but we're going to do the best we can to make it work. And hey, we don't have to drive in the snow, so that's a plus. Although it would have been a snow day, so I guess that's a minus. I don't know. Is it an overall gain, overall minus? You don't have to come to campus. So just let me know how I can help. I got a pile of stuff here to go and get scored for you. So hopefully it went well on the project. If it didn't go as well on Project Zero as you wanted it to, start Project 1 sooner, is my best advice. Ask me questions. Happy to clarify things. Again, it's meant to be a little bit vague, a little bit open-ended, in that you can flex a little bit of that problem-solving, creative, artistic muscle. It's not just a pure science here. There really is an art to programming and designing things and planning things out and solving them different ways. There's lots of ways to tackle it, so it should go pretty well. and we'll have some fun. So I'll see you folks on Tuesday, and hopefully our special guest will be here, seeing the world of Twitch, and should be a lot of fun, I hope. So try not to ban too many words in real life. It'll be really difficult if you ban too many, so I'll have to figure out how to put that on a cooldown. I think that's going to be my homework. All right, folks, you take care, and I'll see you around.